Today we're talking about Kontakt multi-output instruments. How can I use one instance of Kontakt to output a load of different instruments without needing to load up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different instances of Kontakt? Let's show you. So here I am in Logic Pro. I've got one instance of Kontakt loaded up here. Now the first thing that I need to do is check out the sort of Kontakt instrument that I've loaded up. By default, it'll probably load up a stereo Kontakt instrument, which normally, if you just want to put one instrument in that one single Kontakt instance, is fine. But for this purpose, what we want to do is set up 16 stereo channels. It'll depend what the instruments are that you're putting within it as to what your outputs want, but let's work with 16 stereo channels. That's going to do some different stuff within the actual Kontakt instrument that we won't notice just yet. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is find the instrument that I want. In this case, I'm going to model with some instances of Spitfire symphonic strings. So I just need to find that instrument in my long list of Kontakt instruments, and here they are. So let's boot up the violins 1 section, and there they are. Now, of course, if we play that instrument, we have that instrument coming out of our channel. But I don't want to, say, have to open a new track, second track with a new instance of Kontakt to, say, bring in violins 2 so that I can start building a violin section. There's a better way to do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is to load up my whole string section, everything that I want. So violins 1, 2, violas, cello, and basses. So they're all in the same instance of Kontakt over here. I'm going to leave that window up, and I'm going to open my mixer. Now you'll see, let's delete this instrument too, because there's nothing on it that we're using. You'll see with a multi-output MIDI channel that we get this little plus minus button down here. If we just load a standard stereo channel, we don't get that plus minus option. But in the multi-output version, we have the little plus channel. That allows us to create additional channels depending upon how many different instruments are within this one instance of Kontakt. So in this case, I've got violins 1, 2, violas, cello, and basses. So 5 instruments. So I'm going to create an additional 4 tracks there because I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, and there they are. Let's label them. Violins 1, violins 2, viola, cello, basses. Okay, but even so, all of these instruments at the moment are going to be coming out of this first channel, and that's because we need to do a little bit of routing here in order to tell these different instruments which of these channels to go out of. So the area that we're looking at is up here in this little grey box at the top. Just make sure that you've not got the little camera selected, because that's for changing the actual instruments and stuff. You want to have the I button selected. Then what we're going to do is look at this output option. Now you'll see that they all say at the moment output 1. So output 1 for violins 1 is fine. We want to change these to output 2, output 3, output 4, and output 5. And what that means, if we open our little sort of outputs here, is that they're going to be going out of these 5 different stereo outputs. And if you remember, we opted to have 16 of them, so it's going to work up to here, channel 16, which is labeled outputs 31, 32. You see these subsequent ones don't have any outputs assigned because we only selected 16 stereo outputs. So that's all well and good. We know that our individual instruments now are going to be going out of their different outputs. The problem is that we haven't yet told these instruments what MIDI information to read, because at the moment they're all reading MIDI information coming from everywhere, which means that anytime I play, so long as it's within the range of the instrument that's here, they're all going to play at the same time and then all go out of their outputs. So if I play this C up here, that's within the range of these 4 instruments, and they're all being played. They're coming out of their individual outputs, which is great. So we're halfway there, But if we go, there we go. I'm going down to F there. And that starts getting in the range of the basses as well. So we're nearly there. So all I'm going to do now is change the input from Omni and assign these to individual MIDI ports. So again, 1 through 5. And what that's then going to mean is that dependent upon the channel that I'm playing, it's only going to play that instrument. The problem is I have no way really of easily going between these. But what I can do is create tracks so that I have an individual track in my arrange area. And then if I want to play violins 1, I just get violins 1. If I go to violins 2, I just get violins 2, violas, cello, and that's out of the range, and basses. So we've assigned the MIDI input for each instrument, and we've assigned which stereo output it's going to in order to have each of those individual instruments coming out of its own individual track. That's a really useful thing. I can put all those things in a track stack and call them strings and then have them all in one folder, which is very neat and tidy. Great. Now, just a little word of caution about automation, because it doesn't work quite the same way as if you just had a Kontakt instrument with one instrument outputting. So let's say we want to record some automation for this violins 1 track. Let's just hit this recording and then okay, there's some automation. Now, normally what would happen is that automation by default would come into track mode here, and you'd see it immediately in this track mode. For whatever reason, it doesn't go into track mode. It puts that automation into the region rather than the track, which is actually pretty helpful. It's not a problem, because what it means is that if you then want to move that region around, the automation goes with it, which is actually great. And you can do exactly the same thing on any channel. So the automation, rather than being on the actual track, which is where we would expect it to go, it's not there. It's in the region, and then we have the automation there, and we can move it about and the automation goes with it. It's just not quite how Logic works by default with normal automation, but actually it's a really useful thing, because it means your automation by instrument stays with the region and moves around. Whereas if it's on the track, as you'll know if you do automation, if you move a region, Logic will say, do you want to move this automation with it? And that can be confusing sometimes or not. So that's a cool thing to know about. So of course this works really well if you're doing, say, full orchestral scores. So you've got strings, brass, percussion, all the different sorts of sections. But of course you could also use it in any contemporary, any popular music production. If you've got lots of different synths that you want to tidy up, you can have all your bass synths in one place and all of your pads in another, for example. This is a really nice way of keeping your project more tidy rather than having, 25 different instances of Kontakt or whatever it might be. Something else that's great to know about is something called articulation sets. So you'll see that if I go to this track section in the inspector, I've got this option down here, which you've probably never paid any attention to, which is called articulation set. What I've already got built in here is a whole bunch of articulation sets that I've built myself. So these are all my presets, if you like. If we just look at the piano roll for a moment in this violins 1 section, you'll see here there's nothing at the moment. If I, however, change my articulation set to the same set that I've built for this instrument, which is Spitfire Symphonic Strings Violins 1, all of a sudden here you see that I've got this articulation window pop up. And what that means is that rather than having to program, if I go back into my Kontakt instrument, up violins 1 here, rather than having to program key switches, MIDI key switches between these different articulation sets, up here, violins 1, what I can do now is find the note and say, I want that note to be a staccato note or a spiccato note, or I want that note to be a long note. And you can obviously do that per MIDI note, which makes it so much easier to write in your articulation for particularly orchestral instruments, but for any instrument that has MIDI key switching. If you want to see how I set that up, that articulation set, let me know in the comments and I'll do it for you. This video comes as a direct request from someone in the comments a couple of months ago. If you've got topics or videos that you want me to make on specific things, let me know in the comments. And if I think they're going to be useful for people in general, I'll make them for you. So that's it for today. A short one this week. I'll be back next time with another video for you.